Standing in front of the girls, Zhang Yi began to explain his countermeasures. I guess they don't have much explosives left and their attack on us is about to stop. As for when they attacked us again in the next round, I had countermeasures. Zhang Yi turned to the camera screen. Monitor and observe every move of Tae-sun soldiers. Suddenly Zhang Yi smiled and said, if you come back again, it won't be as easy as last time. I certainly won't leave it alone. Zhang Yi's phone showed a message from Chen Lei. Zhang Yi seriously followed it. Sender, fat guy, sir, what just happened there scared me to death. With such a loud explosion sound, I even suspected that the manor had been blown up. Map continued to report the situation in his village to Zhang Yi. Many soldiers have returned to the village. And according to my observations, I saw some soldiers leave the village and go west. Zhang Yi slowly read Chen Lei's message, calculated according to the situation. Zhang Yi thought to himself, it seems like these people came back to get the explosives. Thinking so, to be sure about the situation, Zhang Yi sent a message to Chen Lei. So what are everyone else doing? Chen Lei replied immediately, they returned to my village and rested. According to my observations of their actions, they will definitely stay here for a long time. Surely, they will need a lot of food and drinks as soon as they return. After Zhang Yi understood the enemy situation quite clearly, he immediately instructed Chen Lei, Fat, your village is no longer safe. You must always remember to be on guard against those people. After receiving the message, Chen Lei happily replied, Thank you, sir. If such a day happens, I will definitely go there and join you. Zhang Yi sat on the sofa. Next to him were two beauties. He watched the camera. The two beauties looked scared and hugged him tightly. Zhang Yi happily thought to himself, can the soldiers at Tae-sun base live in harmony with the villagers? I do not believe. The scene changes to Chen Lei's village. A captain was reporting to Mr. Zhao. We will live here for a while. We will need people to arrange some houses for us to live in. And remember, prepare meals for 65 people every day. After Chen Lei heard this person's words, he immediately thought to himself, food for 65 people? The food for one of their soldiers is at least equal to the normal rations for 5 villagers. How can we afford to serve them in the long run? Chen Lei thought it was the same thing, but thought Mr. Zhao would act differently. But no, Mr. Zhao happily replied, it's natural, it's our honor to have everyone come to direct us. Immediately after that, he rubbed his hands and happily asked the other guy, but I have a question. When will we be able to subdue that crazy murderer of Zhang Yi? The other guy didn't seem happy to hear Mr. Zhao ask that. He replied with an annoyed look. How to act? How long does it take to act? Those are all secrets. Don't ask things like this anymore. That's none of your business. He gave orders to Mr. Zhao. Your villagers just need to provide food and shelter as I request. We're also helping you get revenge, right? Seeing this person's murderous face facing him, Mr. Zhao scratched his head confused and happily replied, yes, you said it right, we have to ask for everyone's help. As soon as that guy entered the village, Mr. Zhao turned to give orders to Chen Lei. Chen Lei quickly built an igloo. He placed his hand on Chen Lei's shoulder, further admonishing him, these houses must be quickly prepared for the nobles of the Tae-sun base. So you have to be very careful when doing it. Right after that, Mr. Zhao followed that guy, continuously changing into a child behind this person's back. Chen Lei was in the back, looking at Mr. Zhao's back. Chen Lei sighed and said, in the eyes of the villagers, no matter how strong I am, I'm just a useless fat guy, ha ha. Switch the scene to a later time. In front of Zhang Yi's shelter base, after the soldiers at Tae-sun base gathered a sufficient amount of explosives, Lang Fong stood with his arms crossed and observed. He then turned around and said to the giant mutant, please pay attention to the time you throw the explosives. And this time, make sure to explode the broken turtle shell with just one throw. The mutant giant approached the explosives. He replied, yes, I will follow your orders. Immediately after that, using the superpowers of the giant and Captain Lang Fong, the two threw a huge block of explosives at very fast speed towards the villa. Inside, Zhang Yi observed all the developments and saw the explosives heading towards him. Zhang Yi thought to himself, have you run out of patience? Zhang Yi laughed loudly, raised his hand to activate the opening of his space. An extremely powerful attack force that Zhang Yi had previously sucked into space when the TNT explosive block of the Tae-sun base was activated. The power of the explosion from Zhang Yi's space portal shot out towards the explosive block. Just released everything back, Zhang Yi thought to himself, I will return the things you brought to them. A very loud explosion rang out. The giant block of explosives that the other two guys threw together after colliding with the power of Zhang Yi's explosion. It was immediately thrown back towards the Tae-sun soldiers. Lang Fong observed that the situation did not look good. His face turned scared. Lang Fong shouted in panic, "Quick, everyone find a hiding place." The situation of the soldiers at Tae-sun base became chaotic. They panicked and quickly grabbed their spears to run away from the place where the bomb fell. The TNT explosive block after colliding with the power stream fired by Zhang Yi from the space portal. The explosive mass was blown back towards the Tae-sun soldiers by a huge force, causing all of them to panic. The explosive block, after falling to the ground, begins a countdown 3, 2, 1, 0. A loud explosion rang out, shaking the entire sky. The land and houses around where the explosion occurred shook like an earthquake. Tae-sun soldiers could not escape in time and were completely burned. Silent screams rang out continuously. Full. The entire area around where Tae-sun soldiers stood turned into a sea of fire. Explosions rang out continuously. But the Tae-sun soldiers could not withstand the enormous pressure of the TNT block. They were blown away mercilessly. Zhang Yi is truly witnessing a vivid movie in real life. Standing inside the house observing the outside, Zhang Yi secretly smiled softly. Heat weapons are really powerful. I can definitely use them better. On the outside, some soldiers on the faster Tae-sun side escaped the explosion. They quickly covered behind large blocks of ice and snow. Lang Fong and a number of people with supernatural powers were breathing heavily, happy to have just escaped alive. Lang Fong looked at the scene before him and exclaimed, "Damned!" Lang Fong stood up and clung to the rock to observe the situation in the direction where the explosion occurred. He couldn't believe what just happened. He thought, "Or not, how can this be possible?" Looking at the area where the TNT block exploded, the soldiers who could not escape were all burned. The pressure of the explosion left their bodies intact. Their faces before they died were all very scared. Lang Fong wondered. Why did the explosives fall toward us? Why was the explosive pushed back in midair like that? Lang Fong was angry. He knelt down and slammed his hands on the snowy ground and shouted loudly, "Full! Ah!" Right after that, Lang Fong seemed to understand something. He was angry, gritted his teeth and said. He certainly released part of the force of the previous explosion into the air, changing the trajectory and direction of the explosive. Lang Fong was so busy thinking that he didn't pay attention to his surroundings. Suddenly, a projectile from Zhang Yi flew towards Lang Fong. His supernatural instincts suddenly discovered this. Before Zhang Yi's projectile could shatter his skull, Lang Fong opened his eyes wide. He thought. Zhang Yi started acting puppet? In a second, Lang Fong was able to stand up in time to avoid Zhang Yi's bullet. Even though his projectile missed, Zhang Yi also praised his captain Lang Fong's abilities. He was indeed the leader of those soldiers. He is a cruel person. Fong Lang immediately realized that Zhang Yi had begun to act. He immediately told all the surviving soldiers to be careful, there were snipers. The guy standing right next to Lang Fong had not yet heard the instructions when a bullet went straight into the middle of this guy's forehead. But this guy's skin is very strong thanks to his ability. The bullet hit him in the middle of his forehead but could not penetrate his skin. He pulled the bullet out of his forehead. It seemed that the force of the bullet's impact made his face grimace, and he spoke in annoyance. Damn, it hurts so much. Zhang Yi, after witnessing this scene, he immediately commented, of course it is a human form of fighting. His defense is amazing. Zhang Yi continued to follow these people with the scope of his sniper rifle, but it seemed that he realized he was being targeted and followed Lang Fong's orders. All of these people scattered everywhere at the same time. Surprise! 2 consecutive bullets headed towards Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi immediately opened the space to absorb all the fatal bullets inside. Zhang Yi spoke up, there is sniper shooting. Immediately, Zhang Yi opened his dimensional gate, returning the projectile that had just been shot at him. In his mind, Zhang Yi smiled and thought, taste your ricocheting bullets. 2 snipers had just unsuccessfully shot at Zhang Yi. They have not yet had time to continue their action. Both guys returned to their ancestors. Each guy took a headshot bullet in the middle of the head. Suddenly, a loud noise rang out. Suddenly, Zhang Yi's villa shook violently. Unexpectedly in this situation, Zhang Yi was bewildered, not understanding what happened. The shelter system announced. The wall of the refuge was damaged. The damage level is 0.028%. Outside the villa, Lang Fong continuously used his powers to attack the surface of the villa wall. More and more cracks appeared where Lang Fong attacked. Zhang Yi was bewildered by the scene that was happening. While observing Zhang Yi, he thought, when did he come here? Lang Fong did not stop for even a second. While attacking the wall, Lang Fong gritted his teeth and said, "Sooner or later I will break your barrier." Inside, Zhang Yi seriously observed Lang Fong. On a serious note, he is indeed a person with perverted powers. In addition to super fast movement speed, he also has the strength of a monster. Zhang Yi looked outside, smiling and thinking, ordinary sniper methods cannot hurt him at all. But with this attack power, as long as I don't leave here, he can't do anything to me. A moment later, Fong Lang only chipped the wall a little, making him frustrated. Lang Fong angrily stopped and ordered all soldiers to retreat from this place. Some time later, changed the scene to Chen Liang's village. Mr. Zhao and the villagers are gathering outside the village. They saw Captain Lang Fong and the soldiers at Tai Sun base returning. Mr. Zhao immediately asked Captain Lang, "Did you guys win big? Can you kill that evil guy Zhang Yi?" The villagers standing behind Mr. Zhao also excitedly spoke up. "That's right, I just heard a loud bang. His house must have been blown up, right?" Another guy happily spoke up. "Everything was exactly as Captain Lang predicted. We have won a great victory. With just this one move, it is truly amazing." Mr. Zhao heard these villagers so happy, also stood in front of Lang Fong, excitedly asking, "Zhang Yi, has he been blown to ashes?" Seeing the happy faces of these villagers made the deputy captain standing behind Lang Fong feel very uncomfortable. "Don't let these people be happy for long." This guy raised his eyebrows and shouted loudly, making all the villagers scared. All went silent. Lang Fong, with a calm expression, did not care about the questions of these villagers. He spoke up and ordered Mr. Zhao, "We feel a bit hungry, so please prepare more food. Please prepare a little more than usual." These unusual manifestations made Mr. Zhao and all the villagers here feel surprised, but Mr. Zhao and the villagers did not dare to ask any more. Immediately afterwards, all Tai Sun soldiers returned to the village. That guy turned around and said to Mr. Zhao, "Today we fought with all our might. I want you to prepare more delicious food, do you understand what I mean?" Mr. Zhao and the villagers only dared to look at the backs of these people walking away. Seeing that big guy turn around to remind them, everyone's expression changed from worry to happiness. Everyone stammered in response. "Ah, yes yes yes." Waiting for those Tai Sun soldiers to enter the village, these villagers dared to whisper loudly. It seemed like a lost battle. Another person spoke up, "They have so many people, why can't they defeat Zhang Yi?" Another guy spoke up to confirm, "I thought right, Zhang Yi is indeed a very cruel demon, moreover he also has many cruel tricks." Inside the village, a big guy walked behind Lang Fong. He immediately spoke to Lang Fong. "Are these villagers too appreciative of us? Let me go teach these people a lesson." Lang Fong turned around with a thoughtful look on his face. He replied, "There's no need to do that. They can still provide us with food and labor." Lang Fong emphasized his own thoughts. "If you really want to clean up these people, you have to wait until you're done with Zhang Yi." Everything seemed to be within Lang Fong's calculations. He laughed and said, "Our Tai Sun base also needs a few more workers. After finishing everything, let them go and contribute to the organization." When the big guy heard Lang Fong say that, he immediately replied, "Then they must feel very lucky. If it had been before, with my uncontrollable temper, I would have definitely killed a few of them." At Zhang Yi's safe house, after the Tai Sun army retreated, Zhang Yi called everyone out of the basement. Joku immediately ran back to ask Zhang Yi, "Are you okay, are you injured?" Zhang Yi replied, "I'm fine, don't worry. Everything is fine now." Yang Mi also prepared a lot of food in advance for Zhang Yi to nourish after the battle. She brought many delicious dishes to the table. Right after that, she reminded Zhang Yi to send out his outer clothes. Just sat down to eat, Zhang Yi turned to Ka Nin and asked, "Ka Nin, the outer wall of our shelter received a strong impact. Now part of the wall is damaged and falling off. Is there any way to treat it?" Ka Nin thought for a moment then replied, I understand how to make this sturdy alloy. But it also requires some special materials." Ka Nin added something obvious at the present time, and even when the issue of necessary materials is resolved, we still need to go outside and fix the wall. At this time, we can't go outside to find materials and repair the wall, right? Zhang Yi picked up the can of water to drink, thought for a moment and then replied, "As long as you say it can be easily fixed, we don't need to rush." Yang Mi baited next to her, suddenly calmed down and said, "We don't know how long we will continue to fight." Zhang Yi calmly turned to Yang Mi. He pulled out a cool can of beer from space. Zhang Yi smiled and advised everyone. Right now, you must mentally prepare yourself for a long battle. Zhouke saw Zhang Yi giving the beer to Yang Mi and said, I also want to drink beer. Zhang Yi continued to take the beer can in space and brought it to Zhouke, making her look very happy. Yang Mi is happily enjoying a can of beer. Seeing that both sisters have it, Kanin and Xin also demanded, Mr. Zhang Yi, I also want to drink beer. Zhang Yi was very generous, happily giving each sister a can of beer. Afterward, Zhang Yi and all the girls drank beer to celebrate their victory. Everyone seemed happy, laughing and talking loudly. After all members in Zhang Yi's safe base celebrate victory. The next day everything returned to normal. While everyone is eating, Duang Xin's phone notified of a text message. The person who sent the message was Teacher Liang. Everyone who was having a meal stopped and turned their eyes towards Xin. Xin stopped, picked up the phone to check the notification. Xin has some questions. Why her? Xin after checking phone messages. Xin when looking through the content Ms. Liang sent her. Xin immediately turned the phone towards Zhang Yi. She said, Zhang Yi, I have a message. Zhang Yi took the phone from Xin. Zhang Yi started following the messages. Sender Liang. Xin, I'm Teacher Liang. Your classmates and I really need your help at this time. Can you let me talk to Zhang Yi? Zhang Yi after reading Liang's message. Zhang Yi thought, could it be that she also followed them here? Zhang Yi thought for a moment, then turned to ask Xin, can you guys talk to me about Liang? After that, Xin and Kanin took turns, telling Zhang Yi everything about Liang. Seemingly understanding the whole story, Zhang Yi immediately spoke up. So that's it. If so, we can try it out. Zhang Yi continued to ask Xin, if I use your phone to talk to her, is there a possibility of a virus sabotaging the shelter's safety system? It seems that this Xin girl is a very angry person. She felt like Zhang Yi was looking down on her abilities. She crossed her arms, looked at Zhang Yi angrily, and spoke in an annoyed voice. Regarding this, you can rest assured, the level of protection in my phone is not inferior to the computer in the control room. Zhang Yi held Xin's phone, so I used your phone to talk to her. Immediately, Zhang Yi used Xin's phone to text Liang. Zhang Yi sent a message with the content, I'm Zhang Yi, what do you want to find me to negotiate? On the other end of the line, Liang after receiving Zhang Yi's message, she immediately pressed call to connect with Zhang Yi. Liang is in an ice room. After Zhang Yi answered the phone, Liang started talking, Zhang Yi, I hope to cooperate with you. Now, my students are at the Taesun base, they are threatening the lives of my students. I want to ask you to help me. When Zhang Yi heard what Liang said, he calmly replied, asked me to help you? The people at Taesun base are probably living a very good life. Don't the students of Tiantan Academy all have a higher status than others? Liang clearly understood every meaning in Zhang Yi's words. She continued to seek help in a soft tone. I know well in this moment. Then the previous identity and status no longer exist. I really want to cooperate with you. Liang continued to explain why, here. Because I came here, along with those who wanted to attack your hidden home. I feel like you need my help. Using that as a condition for pursuit, please help me and the other students escape from that place. How do you see this condition? Zhang Yi listened to Liang's conditions while thinking about Taesun base. Is the Taesun base a large underground shelter? Zhang Yi just listened. Suddenly he laughed. Looks like Zhang Yi came up with a great idea. Zhang Yi thought to himself, are their lives in danger there too? But I don't think Liang's life is bad. She is a powerful mutant after all. Yet even a group of students can't protect them? Zhang Yi began to set the conditions for pursuit. I don't know anything about Taesun base, you want me to help? Then at least tell me some information about changing sets. Liang did not hesitate to answer. Okay, I can tell you. You can risk your life to save Xin. I believe you are an honest person. After the call with Liang ended, Zhang Yi continued to eat with everyone. Zhang Yi still seems to have a lot of questions about the Taesun base. Zhang Yi immediately made a guess. That being said, there can be a reasonable explanation. The missing students were taken for experimentation by people at the Taesun base. If so, that would be ridiculous. The probability of creating mutants is very low. Maybe they won't be able to come back anymore. Faced with the above information, Zhang Yi secretly smiled. But having said that, they are not wasted. After processing, corpses are also high-quality protein. The information exchanged between Zhang Yi and Liang seemed to be things that ordinary people would hardly think about. Zhang Yi looked at the faces of two girls, Yang Mi and Zhou Ku. Both girls seemed quite scared. Zhou Ku immediately spoke up. Taesun base is truly hell. They treat the people on the 4th floor like that. If everyone there died, who would work for them? Zhang Yi heard Zhou Ku say so. He immediately stood up to explain. There are very few survivors outside, but that's compared to the rate before the apocalypse came. According to the previous population count, if only 5% of people survived, our country's population density would still be the top country in the world. In front of everyone, Zhang Yi continued to give some information to defend his thesis. Currently, there are more than 1,000 people alive in Chanlei's village. If I'm not wrong, most of them will be taken away sooner or later, and then they will be intimately close, in contact, and experience the tricks of the experiment in creating artificial mutants. That. Ka Nin listened to the story. With a sad expression, she spoke up. I thought they would live better if they went to Taesun base. Now that I think about it, being there is better than staying at Tiantan Academy. After thinking and understanding some information, Zhang Yi contacted Liang again. If you already know clearly about the defense force of Taesun base, with just a few of us, how can we live there? Rescuing a group of her students was really difficult. Zhang Yi continued to emphasize his words. You told me to go there and save people. It seems like you think too highly of me. I can only protect myself. Liang gave his comments about Zhang Yi. You can withstand the attack of Taesun base. This proves that you are very strong. If I can demonstrate my own useful value, can I convince you? Zhang Yi heard this and felt it was reasonable, so he replied. If so, wait for me to think and then I will contact you again. Please wait for me. Zhang Yi just talked to Liang, seems to have come up with an idea. Zhang Yi then turned to ask Xin. Xin, before you said that, as long as we can install a virus into the Taesun base's network, we can penetrate their entire security system, right? Yang Mi turned to consult Zhang Yi. Mr. Zhang Yi, do you want to use Liang to counterattack the Taesun base together? Zhang Yi crossed his arms. He said naturally. We cannot always be in a passive state and take the beating. On the side of Chanlei's village, Lang Fong gathered all the villagers of Tujia town. Forward. Lang Fong held a loudspeaker to announce. Immediately afterwards, to gain the trust and spirit of the people here, Lang Fong shouted loudly. Everyone knows that. We are here to help people. Across the river there was a demon named Zhang Yi who killed a large number of innocent people. This man is extremely cruel and has killed hundreds of people in your village. These immoral deeds are truly indescribable. Immediately after that, I saw the enthusiasm rising from the people here. Lang Fong calmly said, to destroy this monster, right now we really need everyone's cooperation. Before informing the people, Lang Fong gathered all his subordinates. Together they made a plan to deal with Zhang Yi. Lang Fong looked solemn, pointed at the table and spoke up. We have now conducted several experimental attacks on Zhang Yi's hidden place. Although the loss was huge in both human and material resources, we now understand what Zhang Yi's capabilities are. After failed attacks, Lang Fong gave his comment. I'm sure we can't use ballistic weapons, like handguns and donkey arrow launchers, because they were all absorbed and shot back. Agreeing with Captain Lang Fong's comment, all the subordinates seemed to be thinking the same thing as him, as these people all had quite apprehensive expressions on their faces when thinking about Zhang Yi's abilities. Lang Fong continued to emphasize, however, his attack method is very simple. He can only attack with a sniper rifle, but does not dare leave his hiding place. After considering many methods, it seems this guy has found another way. He emphasized his plan. So my plan is, let some of us use our own strength. Use our superpowers to continuously attack from the blind spot where he hides. It seems that before attacking Zhang Yi base, Lang Fong observed this place quite clearly. Lang Fong added, Zhang Yi's hiding place is very large, so there will be many blind spots. My plan is, some people will show up according to instructions. One by one, they used their special powers to launch an attack on the hidden place, to serve as a distraction. While Lang Fong was talking about his plan, Liang listened with a serious expression. Lang Fong then continued to add, then let the villagers dig a tunnel under his base, we will place explosives underground. Liang seemed to understand Lang Fong's purpose. She asked Lang Fong with a shy expression, do you want all the villagers to die? Lang Fong replied to Liang with a calm expression, I do all this for them. Before, this guy Zhang Yi massacred hundreds of people here, and once we leave this land, they would not be able to fight back when facing Zhang Yi. Lang Fong raised his hand to rest his chin and continued to emphasize with a serious expression, the sacrifice of some is necessary for ultimate victory. Unable to accept Lang Fong's words, Liang clenched his fists and slammed down on the table in protest. This is exactly the killing of innocent people. Still maintaining her opinion, she did not agree with Lang Fong's methods. Liang angrily added, "If you don't have a better way to break into my hideout, then follow orders." The girl sitting next to Liang realized that the situation seemed quite tense. She turned to gently remind Liang, "We have no other choice but to do so." In Zhang Yi's hands, he holds a lot of supplies, which can support the lives of thousands of people. Very important to our base. This girl is afraid to explain her point of view further. Now is the end of the world. Very few people can survive. Instead of pitying others, it's best to protect yourself and those around you first. She emphasized one more thing that hit Liang's weakness. For example, being her student. After the girl's words, Liang seemed to have reconsidered. Liang silently realized, correct, now is not the time to turn away from them. Seeing that Liang's expression was different, the other girl continued to reassure Liang's spirit, and they were only asked to dig tunnels, not to be used as cannon fodder. If they really freeze to death and are exhausted, where will we get their labor? Liang seemed to have reassured himself. She stood up and sighed and said, "You can arrange it yourself, but I hope people can put human lives first, and don't let them die of exhaustion." Lang Fong spoke up to calm Liang's spirit, assured, "We have finished the calculation. There are a lot of people in this village. When digging the tunnel, we will let them take turns doing the task and make sure no one is too tired." Back to the current scene. Lang Fong continued to inform the people, "Please cooperate with us in digging the tunnel. Let's all work together to destroy Zhang Yi's evil turtle as soon as possible." Some people seemed to disagree with this. One person immediately spoke out against it. "What? Do we have to go to work? Why?" A person behind asked. "They come here to eat our food, drink our food, stay at our place. Now, forcing us to go to work, isn't this bullying honest people?" Mr. Zhao saw that people's morale seemed to become unstable. Very quickly, he reassured everyone. "Everyone calm down, everyone don't raise your voice, don't make such a fuss. This is also for our benefit. If the evil Zhang Yi is not eliminated, will we be able to return to a state of peace?" Seeing Mr. Zhao stand up to help these people, others continued to protest. "Mr. Zhao, but now we don't want to do this." Another person answered him, "That's right, Zhang Yi has not attacked us for a long time. Everyone is also living peaceful days, is it necessary to declare war on him again?" Liang stood looking towards the people. She worriedly thought about how to deal with it. She had to quickly discuss this matter with Zhang Yi. Otherwise, I don't know how many more people will die.